Hey everybody, it's Sabrina, and I am going to be finishing up my April Project Life section, and I think I have 2 spreads and then the end page to do. So that's why I just combined it into one larger video. It's just that the spreads took me a while to bring them together, like this one. So I had some landscaping photos because my husband and I made the decision last year to get some professional help to wrangle in our backyard. It had become so overgrown. We had a wet winter and it would have taken us too long, and we didn't have that amount of time to dedicate to fix our yard. So I had all these photos of our backyard. Not very exciting, right? And I was thinking, okay, I'll just do a pocket page on the left and the right. And then I remembered that I have all these prompt pages that I've been wanting to try to use more. And I found one that said details. And I knew it was from a March or April Stories by the Month kit. So I asked on Instagram, found out that it is a March kit from 2023, I believe. I don't have that kit. So what I did is I scanned the details paper, and then I was able to make clipping masks for my various photos. And I, of course, left a little gap wherever the details was because I didn't want to cover that up. Now, as I was doing this and I was thinking, okay, I'm going to have photos in certain spots, and then I'm going to have a couple spots empty. Would that look awkward? I don't think it does. I wound up with photos in all the spots except for 1 and 6. And I'm totally okay with that. I didn't have another photo for 6, and I knew that for the first detail, I wanted to make sure that I just talked about what these photos were. And I'm just cutting off the top portion or whatever portion I need to cut off so that way you can still see the details. And so I think my trick of scanning it really worked awesome and making a clipping mask. I'm really thrilled with it and proud of myself that I was able to accomplish this and use the details paper, because I also found the currently card that I'm going to use on the pocket page side, and that matches really nicely with the details page. So again, these photos are not very exciting. They're just the different spots that we had cleaned up in our yard because we are fortunate enough to have a pretty big sized yard with lots of fruit trees that the previous owner had planted. So things can get overgrown really quickly, and that is what happened. So over on the left-hand side, I'm going to have 3 spaces that I need to fill up. I have one photo of our wood, staircase to the second level, and that was all I really wanted for a 3x4 photo, and so I'll use the currently card. I think I'm going to make my own title card, and then I wanted to do something with this vellum tag. I don't know, just to add in a little more spring color. I also have the puffy stickers from a really old story kit. I also grabbed these black sticker labels to put on a few of the photos on the right hand side. So really a kind of a fairly big mix of different products, and I think I did a pretty good job of bringing it all together to look cohesive and look like one fun spring backyard cleanup. And that was my goal, because this was definitely a story I wanted to include in our family's Project Life album. So I put a sticker on 2, 5, and 3, and then that way I can just add a little snippet of the journaling and also add in those puffy stickers. I probably used more than I normally would have, but I was trying to finish up one of the sheets, and I think I just about finished up the sheet. So that's good. Trying to use it up. And on the back of this details spread is going to be the next project that I'm going to show you, which is Week in the Life. So for the title card that I was going to make with 3x4 paper that I cut, I needed some stamps, right? So I am pulling out my different stamp sheets and trying to decide what I want to put on that that card. I also grabbed a pink vellum tag. I thought about maybe doing that. In the end, I'm going to go with just the title. And over on the right hand side, I found a stamp I had never used before. It says clear it out and clean it up, and that is absolutely perfect. I also grabbed a flower stamp, and I'm going to stamp that in various spots as well. This details paper has one blank white spot up at the top, which I think is kind of interesting. I don't know, like it's just a blank spot, but I'm going to use it to stamp a flower. And then to bring some kind of consistency, I also stamped flowers in the other details boxes. I tried to do half a flower using scratch piece of paper. It didn't turn out as great as I would have wanted. Kind of looks, I don't know, on the details paper. Either way, I got the flowers stamped, and I was just going to keep moving forward with this. On the 3x4 card, I did flowers down in the bottom left-hand corner and one up at the top right. And then I'll use this alpha stamp set to stamp out backyard cleanup. And when I broke up the word backyard, I stamped like an asterisk. And for me, that looks great. Looks perfect. Let's just keep moving forward. But again, I am surprised at myself at how I brought a variety of different products together. I don't know when I was talking about this last, but I know I just recently had a project where I was trying to bring a bunch of things together and it was just not working. So I wound up going in a completely different direction. But this time, with this particular project, I had all these variety of products and I actually stuck with it and it turned out really good. On the green vellum tag, I had a chipboard that says around the yard. So I used that and also stamped with Stays on Ink spring cleaning. So just a layered piece right there. And for the details, for number 5, I just said that this area was full of knee-high wild grass. I mean, our daughter was thrilled that there was knee-high grass. She was kind of upset when we cut it all down, but we needed to have a fresh start. And then over on the main portion right here, this is where I journaled about how, it was a wet winter and just busy season of life and our yard was completely overgrown. So we made the decision to get some help and we were so thrilled that we did it. And I didn't take any before pictures, which I wish I would have. And I'm surprised that I didn't, but I definitely got the after pictures. And I got a picture, I didn't include it in this project, but I got a picture of the people hauling out all the green waste bags, and it was a lot, at least 7, but enough to fill their entire truck bed. So over on the currently side, this is where there is 5 different little spots to do different stories. So I focused on the different areas in our yard. So like the first one I said was that the wooden and gravel walkway isn't overrun with weeds and the redwoods were trimmed back, which is the 3x4 photo that I have included. So that's what I talked about for number 1. I also talked about how our other redwoods got a haircut so that way they're trimmed back and not, touching so low to the ground, and just other little tidbits about the different spots in our yard. And that will kind of wrap up this project. So I think that is really a unique kind of story. I'd love to know in the comment section if you guys have done a unique type of story in your project life. I can't remember the last time I did a backyard type of story. Now, when the kids were really little, I would do backyard stories all the time about playing outside, but never about a backyard cleanup. So this is really fun and different to have in my album. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next one, which is Week in the Life. And I think I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'll mention it again. So forgive me if I've already mentioned it. But my friend Deneen, and I will leave her Instagram name and all her information in the description. But She does 6x8 Project Life as well and has been really inspiring me to kind of just narrow things down, like what's the most important. And it's not that I haven't been doing that. It's just I know that I may not get to kid albums. So I think sometimes that's why I include more than necessary, I guess. But this time with April, I really took a look, like a really hard look at April. And I decided, you know what? I don't need a lot to April. And with Week in the Life, I can wrap it up with one project. Because I do like to have a Week in the Life spread in my Project Life albums. I always have, and I think I always will. So what I did here is I found the Around Here paper and I have the digital. So I took the digital and I made a clipping mask for each of the white boxes and then clipped in a variety of photos. Then I printed out the pink script paper and that way I could create a flip out because I wanted to have a bunch of the family photos on the porch. So I have the very large one on the left-hand side, and then my daughter and I in a 3x4, and my son and my husband in a 3x4. And so that'll be a flip out on the pink script paper. And my printer leaves a small white border when printing, even though I tell it not to. So I gotta still figure out that setting and why it's doing that. Because I told it, don't do that. I want you to print the entire thing. But anyways, in between the two photos, I'm going to add a chipboard that says Life Right Now, and I'm actually going to have to peel that or kind of rip up that chipboard when I go to stamp the title on the inside. So that was kind of a rookie mistake that I did not realize that until after I had put the chipboard on there. So I had an awesome subscriber let me know that with the new Cameo mat being super sticky, you just use a t-shirt and, use that to take off some of the stickiness. And so I've been working on that. These photos got a little bit curled. You saw the landscape photos. Those ones were a lot more curled. So I'm working on my non-sticky mat, but at least the mat is not so sticky that I have to literally throw away what comes off the mat because it's just stuck and tears when I try to pull it off. That is so frustrating. So for right now, I just got to take off a little more stickiness and then it won't curl so much. But with these photos, like I said, I picked out a mix, at least 2 or 3 photos from each of the days. And I tried to make sure I highlighted kind of each of the different activities that we did, like a hike and soccer, playing in the backyard, homework, scrapbooking, and messes. So just a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And then I'll wind up with 4 different spots where I can stamp. And the Around Here kit has these really large vellum gold sentiments. So I'm going to use 2 of those. One of them is home, and I wanted to staple them, but I didn't want to staple them and it go through to the other side. So I just stapled first and then added some adhesive. And so that worked out perfect. So I'll have home in the bottom left-hand corner and then Around Here over on the right-hand side with the flip out. And you just saw me refill my new adhesive, the AdTech. I think I talked about that. And so far, I'm really loving the AdTech. It's awesome. And yeah, so I just had to mention that. It's so far fantastic adhesive. I'm loving it. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that I punched my holes because I always forget. And so I took a moment to punch the holes. Now I'm back to adhering the Around Here. I did 2 little staples just to do something different and then trimmed the top of the Around Here. So on the home, I trimmed the bottom. On this one, I trimmed the top. So a little bit of consistency there. Now, my next goal is to stamp a title. And I have a new alpha stamp set from Ali Edwards, which is this one. So what I'm going to do to help myself is I'm going to draw a really faint pencil line so that way I can get it straight as I possibly can. Now this is where I have to kind of rip up the Life right now, because I can't stamp with the bump behind it. I'm sure I could try, but it probably would not be very successful. So I'm just gonna rip it up. I am loving the Ali Edwards Alpha stamp sets, and it's really hard not to get the new one every single month. It's really hard. But this past stamp, I don't know, my last order, I just got another numbers stamp set because I feel like I need some more of those. But I love this stamp set. It is fantastic. So I stamped out week, then I erased my line. I felt like if I erase my line and then stamp the next one, that would lessen the possibility of smearing, if that makes sense. That was my line of thinking. Who knows if that's actually true or not, but that was my thinking. Let me just erase it as I go. So I'm stamping week in the life, and then I can do some word phrase stickers and also some stamped sentiments on the boxes. So absolutely loving how this comes together, and it's just simple and to the point. And do I have week in the life done for 2024? No, I do not. Am I okay with that? Yes. Because I know I have the photos, I know I have the journaling, and I will confess, yes, I'm confessing. Journaling is probably the hardest part for me, but what has worked in years past, or most years, I should say, is pulling up my notes app and then just talking out my notes. And truly, there is so many different spelling mistakes, and sometimes things don't make sense, but overall, everything makes sense in my notes app for the most part, and that outweighs the spelling errors or sometimes the grammatical mistakes. So that's what I always do. Notes, talk it out in my notes app. The only problem is, this is where I'm saying I'm confessing. The only problem is I rarely make it to Saturday or Sunday with journaling. I think Saturday and Sunday is where I always wind up stopping my journaling. And I think for 2024, I got all the way through Saturday, but I did not do Sunday. So that's frustrating because I like to have that journaling like right in the moment, but I didn't this time. But that's okay. Now I stamped a bunch of the different sentiments around this page, and it looks so good. Definitely a favorite new project. And I'm grabbing the word phrase stickers like moments and milestones. Here's the story, this and that, and then family over on the family photo. So trying to use up those word phrase stickers, and now I'll get some double-sided adhesive tape to put back the chipboard that says life right now. So a fantastic way to document and kind of overview, recap my week in the life for 2024. And then I have a really special end page for the month, and I love it. I wish I had done Christmas cards, because if I had, I would have probably used these photos that were on the end page. So there we go. That's how it looks in the album, and I'm going to show you a flip through of the whole month of April in just a little bit. Okay, so this is the end page, and it also uses photos from Week in the Life. I have an app called Time Hop that shows me photos from previous years, and I don't know when it popped up, but it popped up that I had a family photo sitting on the porch from Week in the Life in 2015. And when I showed it to my family during Week in the Life 2024, I asked them, could we recreate that? Would you be willing to do that? And both my kids said yes, and I was absolutely thrilled. Because I think in 2023, my kids were not in the mood for family photos, so I did not get them on the porch. But for most years of Week in the Life, I end our week with porch photos, and it's just so meaningful to me, and I absolutely love it. So when my kids told me yes, we could recreate this, I felt like I'd won the lottery. Like, I was like, I don't need anything for Mother's Day or my birthday. This is amazing. So I took this time hop photo and I'm going to put it on the front, and then I'll have a 4x6 journaling card along with the year die cut. And I just used some simple copy paper behind it to create that flip up. And I'm not going to put anything underneath the flip up, no journaling, nothing. I don't really need it. I could, if I wanted to, but I don't feel it's necessary. So I got everything adhered down. You saw that I was about ready to adhere the 2024 photo, but then I remembered I need to make the flip up and work on this piece first before I add in the family photo from last year. So I got the flip down, and then I can go ahead and add my years. Again, I was able to take an image of the digital kit and upload that to my Photoshop, and then pull the colors from there to change the colors of the numbers to match the kit. So it looks really vibrant and spring, and I love it. And I thought about putting it on the left and the right, like columns, but I decided I didn't like that look, so I went with right at the bottom. So 2015. And I'm not even sure if I have this album printed, because I think 2015 was a year I did digital. So I drew out some lines, and then this is where I just explained that my family was willing to recreate this photo. So my daughter's sitting in my lap, and my son in Dad's lap. And I knew it was going to turn out hilarious, because there's quite a big difference between 2015 and 2024 with the kids, because they are just growing like weeds. So I have my little bit of journaling, and now I can flip it up, and now I can finally add the recent photo, and you can see it is priceless and hilarious, and I should have made the time to make Christmas cards, because this would have been fantastic. So I took the other numbers, 2024, and I'm going to go ahead and glue those down, and then just finish up this simple end page with some word phrase stickers, and that is the end of April. I love it. It's simple, it's done, and that is exactly what I want. I want to really focus and kind of narrow down the stories that I'm going to include in my album. And I really could do a digital photo book if I really wanted to make myself feel better about including more photos, I guess. Went and looked for some word phrase stickers. I found several. I found a pink sheet and then a blue sheet. So I have adore, making memories, and celebrate. And that is it. I love Project Life, and I loved this photo. I love documenting it. It's just documenting and scrapbooking is just the best. So I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing these pages. It's just so fun to bring them to life, and I am going to make sure that I adhere everything together to the back of the Around Here a Week in the Life recap. You can see I used a scrap piece of paper. I don't know, it looks like one of the kids' word searches, but I do try to use scrap paper as often as I can, and this was definitely scrap paper, and it's going to be really thick to turn, and hopefully it will continue to turn okay. But that is my end page, and I think I might stop the album here because it's a good stopping point with this awesome end page. That is a wrap on April pages. I did a lot less than I did in March, and I think some of that has to do with the fact that I've been really inspired by my friend Deneen. I will link her YouTube channel, but she is doing 6x8 Project Life as well, and she's super good at narrowing things down and making sure she gets the most important stories and then moving on. She's actually only going to have 2 6x8 albums this year, so it's pretty impressive to me. And that kind of inspired me to really look at my April photos and kind of moving forward, what is the most important and what do I really want to document. So that helped me in April, and it's probably going to help me in May as well, because I don't have a lot that I really, really want to tell in May or stories that I want to share in May. So I may be able to squeeze in May in this album. I haven't decided. But let's take a look at April and how it turned out. So I have my opening page here. You turn it and I have week 14. Then I have week 15. I didn't write the weeks because I don't feel like that's necessarily important, but maybe I should, I don't know. And then the next spread is the one of the ones that you saw come together. It was the backyard cleanup. I really, really love how this came together. I decided to try to, put the photos on here, and I had an amazing time putting this together. Following this, I did another really kind of, I guess, simple page, but I loved the around here boxes and decided to use this page. I think Ali Edwards would call it a prompt page or a specialty paper, but I used it to just print out, cut out a bunch of photos, and then make a flip out with our family photos. Then you just saw me put together the end page, and of course I have the throwback photo and then flipping it up to see the current photo. So that is a look at my April. I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing these pages come together. I would love a thumbs up or a subscribe if you are new to my channel. All right, have a great day. Bye.